Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are doing amazingly great. So I have started this new series in my channel, which is going to be hashtag storytime Saturday, and every Saturday you are going to get a new video on a story time. This I asked a lot of you on Instagram and also on YouTube, and I got a good response. So I thought, yeah, why not? Let's shoot it. So get your popcorn, get your coffee, get your cold drinks, get your chips, whatever you want to, because this is going to be a little long video, as this is a story time video and I'm going to tell you a long story. So I hope you enjoy this video. Let's go ahead and tell you what the medical emergency was on board. Incident that happened on flight, and this was the first time that it happened on my flight after I became a lead cabin attendant, which is a cabin supervisor. And at that moment of time, I was so shocked to like comprehend as to what is happening and how I'm supposed to react. So this was a medical emergency on board, guys. So what had happened was we have 4 crew in the aircraft. So 2 of us were in front and 2 of us were at the back, and I went at the back to get some food or something like that. And the moment I went at the back, my crew who was at the back, she went in front. Okay, so we had 2 at the back, 2 in front, and I went at the back, so one of them went in front. Now, while one of my crew was going in front, she heard screams in the cabin, and I was all shocked, and I saw people crowding there. It was like on the 30th row, sorry, it was on 13th row, which is an emergency exit row, first of all. And this was a long flight, okay? So it was an international flight. It was like a 7 hours flight. And we had already taken off from India, and we were going into the international destination. I won't mention which destination, but this happened like 3 hours into the flight. Okay, so we took off and it was 3.5 hours, and then this happened. So I was really very scared. Then I rushed into the cabin, and I saw that my crew was standing with the passenger there. The passenger was on the seat. He was bleeding from his mouth, and he had a handkerchief on his eyes, and he was listening to music, but at the same time he was bleeding from his mouth, and the earphones were still in his ears. The eyes were still shut with the handkerchief, and we were all confused because we couldn't understand why he was bleeding from the mouth. So at that moment, I asked my crew that what did you see? So she said that this man was lying down on the seat and his head was stuck in the bar. So it's like the hand rest which you have on the seat, and this is the seat here and this is the hand rest. So there's this space between that. His head was stuck in between that. And then she screamed out for help in the cabin, and that's when all the passengers came around, and it was a very early morning flight, so passengers were not aware about each other much. So it was not the passengers who called out, it was my crew, who screamed out for help. And my crew came running from the front, and we also went running from the back. So she had managed to make that man sit somehow. And at that minute, when I saw that passenger, I was so shocked because I could not understand what to do or what was exactly happening to him. Obviously, we are trained on a lot of things in our first aid classes, like how to deal with situations. But if you do not understand what the situation is with that person, you will not be able to give a solution or a treatment for it. So I was so confused as to like, why is this man bleeding from the mouth and he's just sitting with the earphones on and with handkerchief on? What I did immediately was I went and I ran and I brought an oxygen bottle, because I thought that he was having difficulty in breathing as he was, panting, and I was like, okay, fine, let me go get the oxygen bottle. So I went and got the oxygen bottle from front, my crew went and got it from the aft, and we got the first aid kit because in case he needs a medicine, so we got the first aid kit as well. And that situation was so heated up and my crew was so tensed that they did not even page for a doctor. So I was like, go quickly, go page for a doctor. So one of my crew went for paging a doctor, the other crew went and informed the captain, and we have to keep everybody in the loop so that in case we need some help after we land, or if we need to land, if we need to do an emergency landing, we need to keep everybody in the loop. So that's what we did. Quickly, everything, like, we just brought everything possible. And when I went to get the first aid kit and come back, I saw that this passenger was on the floor. So on the 13th row, you have a little extra leg space because it's an emergency exit, and you have extra space so a person can fall and lie down also. So this person was absolutely on the floor and everybody was crowding there, and they were not, even the passengers were not allowing me to go and see what was happening. So I had to literally scream out like, everybody please move away. I was like, please move away, leave the passenger alone. And that's when they realized that I shouted and screamed at the top of my voice, when they moved and made space for me. And I went and saw this man lying on the ground, bleeding from the mouth. And when I removed the handkerchief from his head, I saw that his eyes were rolled upwards. And trust me, guys, I was like, oh my god, what is this happening? Is he going to die? What are we supposed to do? We can't even understand what is happening. But after that time, we identified when we paged. So one of my crew was paging for a doctor. And when she paged for a doctor, 3 nurses came up. So we did not have a doctor on board. Can you imagine, guys? There was no doctor on board. We had 100 passengers on board approximately, and there was not a single doctor. So there were 3 nurses that identified themselves, and we told them to check on what's happening. So immediately we checked for the pulse. Like in the beginning, when we saw him like that, my crew checked his pulse. His pulse was fine. He was breathing fine. He was just having a little bit of uncomfortable, problems in breathing, but he was absolutely feeling fine, and that is why we bought the oxygen bottle. His temperature was absolutely fine, so we just could not understand as to what was happening to him. So then these 3 nurses, they checked on him and they told us that, he is having convulsion. Convulsion is epilepsy when you have a little bit of in Hindi you call it mirgi. So if you do not understand what the meaning of convulsion is, in Hindi you call it mirgi. So it's like your body is in a state of shock where you are having either withdrawal symptoms or from something, or like, you get what I'm trying to say, right? So his body was shivering constantly. And in convulsions, you do not catch somebody when they're having convulsions. You do not put your fingers in their mouth. You do not try to restrain them. And these 3 nurses, being nurses, they were still holding on to them and they were trying to stop him from having convulsions. And at that minute, I was so confused, because if they told me that it's convulsion, then they should be knowing that you do not catch anybody when they're having convulsions. You leave them alone. Your convulsion stops by itself. And along with that, since he was fallen on the floor, all the passengers were holding on to him and trying to stop him and bring him up on the seat. And I was so shocked, you guys, because they were stopping him and they were making matters even worse, because a person who is having convulsion, you're not supposed to stop him, because that will make matters worse. It could lead into aggressive convulsions, or maybe it could lead into some kind of different, any medical emergency. So I was like, please, I had to literally scream at the top of my voice, and I had to tell all of them to leave him alone. And that's when they all left him alone. And you won't believe, in another 2 minutes, this man was shaking like anything, shivering like anything. And he just woke up and he sat on the seat and he sat this way and he looked at me and he is asking me what happened. So I was shocked and I was looking at him and I was like, sir, what happened? You tell me. At that moment, I was like, oh God, I have not come across this thing before ever in my life. And I have seen convulsion in my life before, but I did not see it in such a state where we do not have any, no doctor on board. There's no help. We are in the middle of a flight, which is like 4 hours, and now we have another 3.5 hours to go. So you cannot land, you cannot have an emergency landing because of convulsion. So you have to manage on board because we're trained for it. So I was like, okay. So I gave him some time and then I was asking him that, sir, what is the matter? Do you have convulsions often, or is it like something you've got for the first time? And the worst part, you guys, this was a South flight and he could not understand what I was saying in English. He could not understand what I was saying in Hindi. So he could understand only Malayalam. And I had two crew on my flight, luckily on that day, who were South Indians. So they were Malayalis and they could speak in Malayalam and Tamil. So when one of my crew, I asked one of my crew to, like help him and ask him what is the matter. And when she went and asked him, he was just like, she went and asked him, sir, do you have convulsions often? And he was like, yes. And then when she asked him again, he said no. So he was in such a state of mind that he could not understand what to say, whether to say yes or no, which made us even more confused because now we could not administer any kind of treatment to him without knowing the history of it. So when we try to give any kind of treatment, we need to know the history of that person. And this person was a guy, he was 27 years old and he was traveling alone. That makes matters even worse because now nobody is flying with him, nobody is accompanying him, so we do not know whether he has travel history. So we opened his bag and we started checking his bag. We took assistance with some of the other passengers. We opened his bag, we tried to look for some prescriptions or documents that he had with regards to any medical history, but we found nothing. There was no medical prescriptions, there was no documents, nothing with regards to any kind of medical treatment that he was undergoing. So I could not understand whether he was actually having convulsions before or not. But we left him, we had to change his seat now because he was sitting on the overwing exit, which you cannot have anybody seated on the overwing exit, and he was alone on the 30th row. So I had to literally shift him. So we could not move him because he was very heavy and he could not get him by himself. So we had to take a help of a few of the passengers and we had to literally take him up and shift him to another seat, which was like, luckily we could adjust with a few seats in front. So we managed to put him there and we asked a nurse to sit next to him. And we also asked another passenger to sit on the window side. So we kept him in the middle seat. And the nurse was sitting on the aisle seat. And this guy, a random passenger, was sitting on the window seat so that he could rest on him if he wanted to. So this person, he was normal after some time and we were looking for his documents and we kept informing the captain that, this is the scene and he's fine now, but, he's going to travel further and stuff. So I went and spoke to him personally and I asked him, I asked him very nicely that, sir, please tell me like how old are you? And I was just trying to have a conversation, and then I came to know that this man was going to travel further from the place that we were going to. So we were traveling from place A to place B and he was going to go from there further also by a flight. And then I told him that, see, you cannot take another flight because this can happen on that flight again, and you do not know whether you are going to have this again, and how troublesome it will be for the other cabin crew to handle you. So I cannot allow you to go on the flight. And he was so adamant. He was like, no, nothing has happened to me, I'm absolutely fine, nothing happened to me, you're making it a big issue and stuff like that, arguing with us that I will go and my dad is waiting for me, he's going to come pick me up. And after some time he became all very sensitive. So I asked him, are you okay, are you feeling fine, do you want something to eat, do you want something to drink, please tell us, I'll give you. So we gave him a cup of tea because he wanted a cup of tea. So we gave him a cup of tea and he wanted a sandwich. So I took out a sandwich from our sandwich box and I gave it to him. And then he was feeling a little fine, but he wanted an apple. So I gave him an apple. So when I went to give him the apple, he told me that his mom had told him to go and visit a doctor before this flight. So the flight that he took was at 5 o'clock in the morning, and his mom told him the previous night that he should go and visit a doctor. So he was not being able to tell me whether his mother told him to visit a doctor for this reason or was it for some other reason. So I tried asking him, but he was not responding. So I told him to go off to sleep for some time because it was a long flight, and the captain told us that we cannot make an emergency landing into any state because we were surrounded by water. We were flying around water, and the next place that would come would be only after an hour. So I was puzzled as to what is to be done. So I told him that you can go off to sleep. If you want medicine, I can give you a medicine. But he did not want anything, so he was feeling fine, so he slept off. So it was like 5 hours into the flight and we had 2 hours more to go. And I was in front this time. So this man, he got up, he was on the 10th row. So he got up from the 10th row and he came towards the front, okay? He started vomiting. So he came in front and he was doing this. So my crew was standing over there right in front of him, in the galley, and my crew asked him what. So he was doing this, and I understood what he was trying to say. He was trying to say that he's feeling pukish, he was feeling like vomiting. So immediately I told my crew to take the great air sickness bag and give it to him. So the moment she took the air sickness bag and she was staring it, this man literally puked, and he almost puked on her. That's when I pulled her back because I was looking at his face and I saw that he was going to puke. So if I wouldn't have pulled her back, he would have puked on her completely and she would have been completely soaked in vomit. So she couldn't take this fact and she went into the washroom immediately. So I let her be. I let her, like, cool down for a bit. And this guy, he was sitting over there and he was vomiting like everywhere. The first row was full of vomit. Galley in front was full of vomit, and I just could not understand what I'm supposed to do now, because we have 2 hours still left and we have to clean this mess up. And I was like, I can't do anything. So I told him that, you get up, go clean yourself, change your clothes, because he vomited and his whole clothes were full of vomit. So I called my crew in the aft and I told my crew that, get his bag and take out his clothes if he has any clothes. And luckily, I had a pair of clothes and a towel inside that. So most probably, I think that was the only stuff he was carrying. So he had it on him. And we took out that clothes and we gave it to him, and he cleaned himself up in the washroom and everything. We helped him out. And now what to do about the vomit? So this, we have a UPK in the flight, which is a universal precaution kit. So we have a scooper and we have gloves and we have apron, everything in that, and we have some powder stuff that you can put it on that so it soaks it up. So this we opened the UPK and we did, like, we did not clean it, but we just covered it and stuff, like, so that once the flight lands, it will be easier to scoop it and remove it off. So we did that and he went back to his seat and then he slept off. His head was aching like anything. So we gave him a medicine, we gave him a paracetamol, but he was not feeling better. He felt like pukish again. So we gave him something to eat and he wanted something to eat. So we gave it to him and we told him that, if you have something more, it's going to make you feel vomitish. But he was feeling very hungry and he was dehydrated, absolutely. It was a morning flight. So we let him, have like anything, whatever. So we let him, like, we gave it to him and we just wanted to make him feel comfortable and feel satisfied at that moment. Now it was like 20 minutes to land. We were supposed to land in 20 minutes and he was sleeping throughout the flight. So we were like calm and we were doing our own work. And just before 20 minutes of the flight, the captain said to prepare for arrival, and we prepared the cabin, and this man came running in front and he started puking again. And now the captain has asked us to take our seats for landing, and this man has started puking again. And now I have nothing, I do not understand what to do. So the first row was empty, and I had to literally tell him that, sir, please sit on the first row, leave everything the way it is. You've puked, it's fine, we can't do anything about it now because we have to land. If we do not land, we are going to keep circling around and we will not be able to land and we won't be able to help you. So he went and sat on the first row and he put his seat belt and everything, and he was all in a mess because he puked again. And we were sitting in front, so I sit with my crew in front, and there was puke all over in front and it was smelling like anything. And we were feeling very pukish ourselves because the plane is going to land, and what happens after that. So the plane landed, and the moment the plane lands on ground, the moment we touch on ground, this man is feeling pukish again. And I am not supposed to allow anybody to get up from the seat and use the washroom until and unless the seatbelt signs are off, or else the plane comes to a complete stop, because it's not safe, it's risky, you might hurt yourself. But this man, I just could not do anything. So the moment we landed, I told him to wait for 1 minute. He waited for 1 minute, and then I had to allow him because he came running towards my crew. And if I did not allow him to go into the into the lavatory, into the bathroom, he would have puked on my crew again, and that would have been like a traumatizing situation for my crew, because we have another flight to take and we do not have, like, supplements that moment to change immediately. I'm sure you would not like to be, drenched in puke and not be able to change at that moment. So I allowed him, and he went, he sat in the bathroom, he sat on the commode, and he puked, he puked his heart out. We landed, and then immediately after I opened my door, I had to call for the doctor, and I had to get him a wheelchair assistance, and then we allowed him to go. But I had to tell that man that, not to travel on the flight further, and I made sure that he does not take a second flight, because that will be traumatizing for him and also for the other crew who is he's going to, like, come across, and you never know what is going to happen. So I made sure I call his dad and speak to him, and I used a local phone because it was an international destination, so we cannot use our own phone because it's the Indian number. So I used a local phone. I called his dad and I told him what the scene was, and his dad, probably came to that place the next day and took him and went. I do not know, but I did my duty to, like, not let him go on another flight. He was like completely exhausted and drained out. He was like that, and he could not open his eyes. He was completely dehydrated because of puking, and he was so sick. I felt so bad for him because I felt like he's a young guy, and I do not know why he was having this. And most probably, he told us that he had convulsions 6 months back, and this happens to him when he does not get proper rest at night. So when he does not sleep and he is fatigued, that's when he starts having convulsions. And I was like, okay, so when you have this problem, why? I thought to myself, I can't tell him anything because he's not well. So I thought to myself that, okay, fine, when you're not well, why do you have to take an early morning flight at all? You could have taken any other flight, right? So that was my reaction, and the paramedics came. They took him and they went, and I do not know what happened after that. But after this, I would like to give you a piece of advice that if you are traveling, please make sure that you have your prescriptions with you whenever you're traveling. You might be having a lot of problems that could lead to, devastating things on flight, and you would not know. Like, we as crew need to know what you're going through, right, in order to treat you. So if we do not know what you're going through, we will never be able to understand this, and we will not be able to help you. So please carry your medical prescriptions, your documents whenever you are flying, if you have a medical history. And what I would like to tell you is, like, avoid taking flights or avoid going for flights at that particular time of the day when it's not comfortable for you. If you feel it's not comfortable for you to take a flight at night, please do not take it. Take another flight in the morning, take one in the afternoon, in the evening, whenever it is, but do not travel when you are not comfortable at that point in time, because when you go in air, your body has a lot of changes. We as crew are got accustomed to it, but you as a passenger who does not travel much will not get accustomed to that easily. We took time to get accustomed to this, and you will also get time to get accustomed to the atmosphere, to the pressure in the cabin, and a lot of things. So it changes when you are in flight. So as a responsible passenger, you should take care of yourself first, take care of your health first, and then go and fly. So this was the incident that I wanted to share with you, with medical emergency that I had on board. Please let me know how you liked the video. This is the first video that I'm taking out today, which is a Storytime Saturday video. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked this video, please let me know in the comments, and let me know if you want me to make more videos as such.